Stevens Point Board of Water and Sewerage Commissioners meeting, recorded February 14, 2022.
Roll call will be done as typical. The second item on the agenda is the minutes of the previous or last month's meeting. Are there any changes or corrections?
I had none.
Then a motion to approve is in order.
I had one question, Mr. Chairman. On item number 6, on the minutes, it talks about the weld break on the biosolids dryer. We hope to have it repaired.
Yep.
I'm just wondering what the status of that is.
Actually, Chris will talk about that in his report.
Fine,
Yep.
thank you.
All right. Is there a motion?
Move to approve, Carl?
Second, Rick.
All those in favor signify by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. All right, approval of the claims for the water department will be first.
I have a question on claims, number 56267, AWWA membership renewal.
Mm-hmm.
I just wondered how they calculate that kind of odd number for a membership renewal.
Multiple. That's, yeah, it's a combination of things. Yeah, it has to do with your size.
Okay.
Size of your utility, like she said, gallons pumped and population. I don't know how those two play together, but yeah.
That's fine.
On the water side, that's the professional organization that we belong to.
Yeah.
Yep.
I knew that.
Okay, yeah.
Thanks.
I had a question on 56273, and I went to Google it, and then I was just wondering what the organization is, the Value in Local Government. Is that just a?
On our credit card, we work with Wisconsin municipalities, and they work with contractors to try to get us better rates on things. I know they have a paper that they have a contract with, and we actually use it for our credit card. So we were able to find a credit card that has a cashback bonus that we get, and they give us the best rate. They have members that shop around, tell us the best deal.
Oh, okay.
It's like Amazon Prime for government.
Okay.
No free shipping, right?
Any other questions on water department claims? If not, let's go on to sewer. Questions?
I have a question on number 56263, a crane inspection. I didn't know that we had a crane.
We have a lot of bridge cranes. We've got 4 of them. So basically it's just over the top of equipment for pick points. They're anywhere from, we've got a 3-ton up to like a 8-ton crane, just inside the buildings to hoist equipment up.
You can picture those dollies riding an I-beam.
Sure.
It's, yeah, that type of thing. Yep.
I have a question on 56333, the digester repair parts, and is that our new digester, or is this a warehouse thing, or?
That is actually for the dryer. That is the safety equipment for the biosolids dryer. If there was to be a fire, if there was an event where we'd have something go on, that's the fire extinguisher system to douse any fire that would, basically, attached fire extinguisher bottles. So if they detect light, it sets off a small, it activates the bottles and extinguish anything that would be in the system.
We did look a little bit locally. This is a very specialized application, and it's kind of a long distance trip for them to do it, and a little bit complicated, but we did our best to find somebody locally here to no avail.
And then trying to find somebody that'll certify it.
Yeah.
That's always the hard thing.
Yeah.
Other questions about sewage department claims? If not, a motion is in order.
Haynes will move approval.
Oh, let's do storm first if we could.
Ah,
Oh,
you're right. I'm sorry. Questions? Okay, now we can have a motion for all three sets of claims.
Haynes will move approval again.
Second, Carl?
All those in favor signify by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Aye. Both same sign. Motion carried. Additions and corrections to the capital operations and maintenance plan report. Before we go there, Joel, is there any need for us to identify Dick Packard and Sarah Thoreau and yet a third person that I can't see without changing my screen that are on the Zoom call?
Good call. So Mr. Packard is a resident on Ridge Court near where our well 12 test well is going. So I'm going to talk about that very briefly during the director's report, and probably Eric will under item 6, water supply and distribution. So he may have a comment then. And then the Sarah Thoreau, she's part of the city staff, deals with these videos and stuff like that, as well as junk work. So that's probably 2 different computers that have logged on for the sake of documenting this on the city website. So, and then Dean Shuda is probably also related to the well 12 issue. So probably either item 6 or the director's report, I would imagine.
Very good. Thank you. So what do you need us to refer to for this next line item?
Yeah, so basically what I did here is wrote a memo, and after discussion, if everything looks in order here, I will make the appropriate changes to the capital operation and maintenance plan that you guys approved last month. So I'll just go through these one by one. There was some discussion last month about how to represent the vac truck purchase on the capital. So I thought I'd bring you a little more information. What was listed there, because of what Storm was going to pay and our trade-in, was a purchase price of $450,000, but actually net of trade and the storm sewer component, this is our investment. So I wanted to bring this forward just so that it's all out there. The equipment as a whole, oh, that didn't work out very well. Right there, it looks like I didn't put the decimal and 00 in, but the equipment purchase that we're looking at is $513,000 and a little more. What happens there is we have 2 vac trucks. The newest one is basically used primarily on the wastewater side of things, and then we recycle the newer one down to stormwater because it's a little harder use in that cycle, and then stormwater pays wastewater for that newer equipment. Now, because the one that's getting traded in is a stormwater piece of equipment, basically what they pay wastewater for the hand-me-down, if you will, is the difference between the market value of our current new truck and the trade-in. So basically we're netting a net cost to Storm of $115,000 to buy our newer current truck from wastewater. And then all those inputs considered, it's a $273,000 out-of-pocket expense to wastewater to get the new truck. So I just wanted to make that clear, because I didn't have all the details. It's a little easier to do it in narrative form than it is on a spreadsheet. So that's that item. Another item that we didn't quite have all the information for at last month's meeting is this middle one, the drainage pump replacement. You can see there that it was pretty late in the year in 2021 that the submersible failed. It was original to our 92 upgrade, and it just makes sense that at this time, given its age and its long service life, that we replace it for a little under $11,000 rather than rebuild it for a little more than $8,000. So that's an addition. And then wanted to talk about the metering pilot projects. This hasn't come up in length yet, but basically what we're looking at is evaluating the different technologies that are available out there for the next generation of our metering system. And in order to do that, like we did 17 years ago now or so, we get into a kind of a, well, I guess I don't know how to put it. It is just that. It's a pilot project with different technology providers. And we take a look at their technology. We buy some of their meters. We get involved in a software program with them to see how it all works and how it integrates with our billing. And then we pick the technology that's best moving forward. The reason we're doing this is because we're currently an AMR system, an automated meter reading system, which depends on a drive-by type technology. This would change our future situation into what they call AMI. Now, I refer to that as advanced metering infrastructure. I think that's the most common term, but there's a few variants on that. And that basically you can read meters, you are reading meters all the time, and you take the data out of the composite data whenever you want. That setup would also give us a lot of information to feed our customers, and they'd be able to go onto a portal and see it themselves without having to engage with us if they wanted to. Potentially, depending on the technology we'd end up with, we'd end up being able to allow a customer to set a notification for themselves to say, if in any given week I consume more water than X, you know, send me an email, send me a text, give me an alert of some sort. So there's a lot of information in the next generation of technology that we're looking at, and I'm just hitting on the tip of the iceberg here. Water temperature sensors, ambient air temperature sensors, acoustic leak detection, stuff like that. It's all built into kind of next gen metering, and we sit pretty good where we are right now, but we are also poised to kind of know where we're going in the future. So this gives us the ability to try out 2 or 3 different technologies and kind of take a direction going forward.
How long would this metering pilot process run?
Well,
2 years?
About a year.
A year.
Now it's been a while since we did this, but we want to get through enough billing cycles that we really have some experience with it. So a year gives us that on whatever technology we're trying.
How would you choose the property owners who were part of the pilot?
Yeah, so basically there's a number of ways. One of the considerations is doing meter sets that are a long ways away from your collector unit. So in the next generation, we're going to have 1 or more fixed radios that read all these. And to know what kind of distance you can get away from that, you're definitely going to pick meters that are on the perimeter of the city or in some challenging basements or very typical sets. So you know how it behaves in a very, run-of-the-mill type application, that kind of thing. You know.
Joel, is it common for utilities to change these types of meters about every 20 years?
Yeah, 1 second here. Hey, Bill, is it all right if I mute you? Do you know how to unmute yourself when the time comes? I'm sorry, Dick. I said Bill. Dick, is it all right if I mute you? Do you know how to unmute yourself when you need to?
I believe I do.
Okay, real good. Thank you. All right. Sorry, Paul, go ahead.
Is it common after approximately 20 years for most utilities around the nation to update their metering systems?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. One approach that we've taken for a long time is to make sure that whatever technology we use is backwards compatible to our existing technology. And that is still to some degree our effort, but I do think there's going to be a bigger change this time than there has been in a long time. We've kind of played around with different meters in the past, and we've switched commercial meters a few times here. We currently buy quite a few census meters, but we still buy some Neptune. And prior to that, we had Metron Farnier meters in. Those were put in about 2000 or just prior to late 90s. And before that, we were Hershey, and those things were enormous brass meters. And so on that end, we've changed quite a bit. Our most consistent use over the last several decades here for residential meter has been Neptune. And they do have a good technology offering too, and we're going to hear more about that soon. But there's a few out there that would involve a bit more of a systemic change to the way we do things. But the good news is that we're not adopting anything in like change it all out perspective. You know, on the residential side, we change 10% of our meters a year. On the commercial, industrial, and public authority side, it varies depending on the meter size, but it's every, 2 to 4 years or so. And so this isn't anything where we're looking to put a ton of money into replacing our system. This is determining what technology we want to adopt so that as we replace our meters, we're getting into the latest and greatest, because we're going to buy meters regardless. And so we want to make sure that as we're buying them, we buy the ones that are going to give us the best service moving into the future. And that involves evaluating the technology that each of them bring. So sorry to dodge the question there. I didn't mean to. Is it common? 20 years. I would say it's more common right now, and I don't know why, for communities to look at totally replacing their entire system with new technology. I don't think anybody on this team feels that that's appropriate, because there's a lot of money in those meters and there's a lot of useful life left in them. And so we'd like to do this slowly. So I would say, yeah, it's common for people to look at every 20 years or even more often. Not common for point. That's why we want to do some pilots to really be sure that if we're going to change course a little bit, that we know where we're going.
Well, thank you very much for that explanation, because I'm the oldest commissioner on this group. And I remember back 17 years ago when we bought the new software, and the individual commissioners back at that time used to call it the black hole that we kept throwing money into, because it was a one-time conversion that followed up with what you just talked about. But it was, I think, $380,000 at one time that we had to come up with. And that from what I heard your explanation, that's not going to happen this time.
Right. And actually, I think what you're referring to is when we use WPS for reading our meters.
Yes.
Yeah. Black hole's a good way to put that. Yeah, we're not going to do that again. That's right. Yeah.
All right.
And I think,
thank you very much.
I think that was on the order of 20. That was even before the example I was given. That was late 90s, early 2000s. Yeah.
Joel, I've got a question.
Sure.
Why do we typically change 10% of our meters every year?
That's required. Well, the way to look at it is that a residential meter is supposed to be tested every 10 years. So if you do 10% a year, you're right in that every 10 years. Yeah.
So we don't have.
They're being tested, really, understand that, they're not being thrown away.
Yeah.
We take them out.
You take them out and test them.
And replace them.
Okay.
Yep. Good. There were some, because of the lead-free rules that, we're well past them now. There were some that we took out and did have to recycle because they had too high a content of lead in them, but that was nationwide, and that was many years ago already. But right now, the meters that are in place, if they test well, we do put them back in service.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want a motion to approve these 3 items, or did I hear you say you're going to add them to the matrix and we'll approve them at the next meeting?
Well, I think what would work great is if you could approve this, to have me add them, then they'll be on there.
Joel, before we make a motion, I'm prepared to support it. Just have a question on that drainage pump replacement.
Yeah.
You're saying it's described as a duplex pump system? Does that mean there are two of these pumps on that, or is it some other?
There are two pumps on that system. Basically, it's a drainage station, so it's a tank in the ground, water pours into it. There's two pumps in there that alternate run times to continually keep the level down. One of those pumps is currently gone, out of service, because it's broken and needs to be repaired or replaced. So right now we're running with one pump.
But are we running, or were we running with two 30-year-old pumps? And
No.
Where I'm going is
the other one was replaced, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, something like that. We had done one.
Okay.
So this is the last of, we've got 6 drainage stations throughout the facility. This is the last pump from the 92 upgrade that's still in any of those systems, so.
And this would be, on the capital sheets indicated as eligible for replacement fund dollars also.
Yes.
So that restricted fund that we hold for replacement fund dollars, this will come out of there, so it's not different capital. Yeah.
All right, any other questions? If not, I believe there's a motion is in order for the 3 different items listed on the February 9th communications.
Move to approve adding those 3 items?
Haynes will second.
All those in favor signify by the sign of aye.
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 Opposed, same sign, motion carried. Item number 5 is regarding the stormwater utility funds for street trees and et cetera. Who's handling this one?
I'll do that. This is Joel. So just annually, we like to bring a report. There's no action needed, but in case you guys have questions about the stormwater dollars that fund other initiatives in the city. Started up in 2013 following the creation of the stormwater utility. And so you can see there's 2 programs that we participate in. One on the Parks Department is activities involving street tree planting, maintenance, all that kind of thing. We put $25,000 a year into that restricted fund for those purposes, and we then pay invoices that are forwarded to us from the Forestry Department that have to do with activities that are street tree related. To date, those deposits have totaled $210,000. The other one is a $70,000 payment that's made to the city every year. We just forward that on, so it's not a matter of us building it up here or holding it. So they just get that every year. And it did change for a couple of years there. That's why that number probably isn't perfectly divisible by 70,000, but the total deposits to date on that has been $640,000. So just reporting to you guys.
Is that the full amount on street sweeping, or is there a portion of what the city?
Oh no, so that one was actually created with the intent of assisting in the purchase of street sweepers. A couple years afterwards, the city included it in their annual budget as a revenue from the utilities, and so you know, you can look at it however you want, I guess. So we are supporting the street sweeping component of Public Works Department because getting those pollutants off the road helps us, and we actually say in our permit to the DNR on the stormwater side how often we sweep. And in order to have some, you know, say in how that happens and ensure that it does, it's relevant to fund a portion of that. So I think the first time we paid out on this, it might have been related to here's money towards the next street sweeper, and then it was turned into just an annual contribution. Basically, they report it as a revenue. So it's just a component. But no, there are, they definitely spend more than $70,000 a year on street sweeping when you look at the staff time and the equipment and everything.
Are they spending $250,000? Are they spending $500,000? What
Oh, boy.
percent of that?
That would be a stab in the dark if I tried. I can certainly figure out what that is. I shouldn't say I'm sure that they account for it that way. They might not. But total hours and equipment costs and stuff like that, I could probably get you. And so, yeah.
How many times do we have to sweep the streets in order to stay in our DNR permit? Like 2 or?
No, it's more than that. I think what it basically comes down to is a minimum of 3. But there's also a component of it that is basically a little more, it's kind of like it takes them so long to cover the city and then they start over. But the way we report it is a minimum of 3. But there are some main streets that get it more, and that works in. And so it's really more when we put our frequency of street sweeping into the model, it gives us a result. So it's not so much that we need to do it so often to stay in compliance. It's that we've represented that we do it so often, and the result of that is this level of treatment.
Okay.
So if we're not doing that, then our model's no longer accurate.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can certainly understand the street sweeping for water quality, but I don't understand how the street trees help us with.
Yeah. So actually, it really comes down to controlling rainfall. There's a lot of kind of interesting, I guess, reports, papers, or whatever you want to say, research to that end that's been done on the effectiveness of having a very well-forested right-of-way on water quality in the right-of-way. So as everybody knows, you see the signs and you hear about it and deal with the leaves in your yard and everything. We're Tree City, USA, right? We've got a lot of them. And it does actually have an impact on not overloading your system in the area where you do have pipe, because those trees hold quite a bit of water back from being an immediate impact on your distributions or collection system, but also a water quality impact. So both of them are relevant to our permit.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
That's all.
You said we do not need a motion on this. It's a FYI.
Yep, just a report.
Okay. On to item number 6, water supply and distribution reports. Eric?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Can you hear Eric okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, good. So, to start off, you can see the usage was up a little bit for January, kind of trending since mid-2021. Definitely most of that is coming from the paper mill. Their meters that we read weekly do indicate that they are using more water than normal. But we have enough supply, so that's not anything to worry about. A couple things I wanted to bring up besides the graph, and you guys, if you have any questions, let me know. We do have a couple quotes in for the air mixer installation, so we'll be going through those and talking with Joel and I this week. Figure out who's gonna install that at the tower right across the street here. We're working on year-end stuff for Mary and the audit with the auditors coming up in March. And other than that, we can talk about well 12 test well drilling. The contractor did show up today. They're mobilizing today and tomorrow. Hoping to start drilling tomorrow. Once they find out what the strata looks like in the ground, they'll order a screen that's appropriate. It'll be a couple weeks lead time for that. And then after that is when they'll do the test pumping and run a 24-hour test possibly and figure out if we have good water or not. So.
One other thing I'd add to that is this is a new sheet right here, the well 11 pumpage history. Part of our agreement with the town of Hull has to do with us not varying a certain percentage per month or a certain percentage per quarter from pumping 2,000 gallons per minute, which is 2.88, I think, per million gallons per day. So in order to make this easily accessible and something that can be recalled, we're just going to include this sheet in the agenda every month so that it's out there to recall for them and for us and everything else. So that's why this one was added. Paul, I don't know, Oh, there's a thing that I can ask to unmute. I don't know if you're at a point in this item where, cause Eric updated on well 12 test well, if you want to, invite others for comment or not.
And,
Sure.
yeah, I did have one just observation to make on the consumption history. And the graphic that does show an entire year, I appreciate seeing the entire year. Before we would go incrementally, January, February, and it wasn't till the end of the year that you get to see the full scope. And
you know what happened there is we accidentally, I think, had a kind of an interesting print screen or a print, what do you call it, window on there. So that's been resolved. So yeah.
So
we'll
now
see the whole thing.
we'll see this in the future, which I think will help the commissioners understand just the broad sweep of things year to year, and you know, just help in some types of assessment. And then it generated a question, you know, a question in my mind is, and it was partially addressed by saying, you know, associated with the paper production and that, but do we see similar upticks in what comes in through the sewer?
Well, not as it relates to the paper mill.
Because, yeah, right.
Because they have their own treatment plant. But, you know, I guess I don't know. I mean, we have that report coming up on wastewater, but sure. I mean, the big things that vary water consumption or pumpage rather for us lately are the mill, but also when we get into the summer on irrigation. So that's not going to impact, you know, wastewater treatment plant flows because it's going down in the ground, right? But Chris could comment on that a little more too, especially when we get into his report.
Sure.
Maybe, yeah.
Yep, thank you.
Just calculating that out and seeing what that comes out to gallons per day.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure there's some variation to it. Something I can't just jump right on and be like, oh,
Yeah.
this is what it is.
Yeah, wait.
But definitely something I could dig into.
The wastewater influence going to be a little more steady.
And we are also running Operation Deep Freeze, so there are 80-some houses that are running their water at a half gallon to probably maybe a gallon a minute max. That should be running their water, so that is an uptick. And who's not to say there's not a leak or two going in the ground we haven't found yet. I mean, there's a combination of everything that could definitely lead to some high January numbers.
Yeah.
Got the annual flushings and.
Oh yeah. Paul, Mr. Packard has unmuted if you want to give him an opportunity.
Sure, go ahead, Mr. Packard.
I'm okay for right now.
Okay. Right, on to the sewage treatment operations.
All right, the wastewater plant did meet all of our permit requirements for January of 2022. It's actually one of the best phosphorus Januaries we've had since I've been here. So that's a bonus. We're getting that midwinter stuff figured out. But definitely ran very well for the last month. We also had Andritz, our dryer company, on site to do some investigation and warranty repair work on the paddle dryer for the biosolids dryer. Hopefully today is the last day of working on it, and then we'll be back up and operational. So that's kind of where we're at for the dryer.
Ray, you had asked about that earlier, right? Is there anything else on that you wanted to hear about?
No.
Okay, all right.
Just because it was in the minutes.
Yep.
So that's where we're at right now. Hopefully we're finishing up today. We'll test it tomorrow, and provided everything passes as I hope it does, then we'll be set to go after that. For part of the month here, we did have our storm and collections crews doing some hauling of our biosolids to the landfill, as that's our backup plan to get rid of material when we don't have a dryer to go through. So Craig's guys have been doing a great job helping us out and keeping everything running. So just want to thank them. Other than that, does anybody have any questions?
Made good use of a brand new truck. I think the first loads that thing carried were biosolids, so dirtied it up quick. Yeah.
We don't have any vision for for a land application anymore. It all goes to the landfill.
Depending on the time of year, if this had been in, let's say, May, June, July, August, September, October, then yes, we would have been looking at land application options.
Okay.
But so let's get back to the normal
Yeah.
situation here. When everything's working right and we create that Class A dried biosolid, it leaves here for free, and it is used in a land application in
Yes.
a situation, just not by us.
Right.
Right, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So then if we were to have this problem during non-winter months, when there's land available to land apply on, then we can go and we pursue that option because it is obviously the better option. The problem is with frozen ground in Wisconsin in January, you can't land apply. It's borderline impossible.
Okay.
And there's a higher bar permit-wise because what we'd need to apply, because the dryer isn't working, is a cake, and that cake is Class B, not Class A.
Okay.
So he needs to get fields permitted then
Yep.
and everything else.
And we do have fields. We do have approved fields. It's just a matter of getting everything lined up properly. It takes some time to get done.
I just know that, landfill is expensive.
Mm-hmm.
I thought,
And a waste of the nutrient.
kind of what's.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, very good. Thank you, Eric. Or Chris, I mean, sorry about that. Is Craig here for construction and maintenance?
He is.
Hi. As Chris stated, we have one person helping him out this month. The airport's been fairly busy with little small calls, nothing major, but also time consumers have been out there. Finishing up on our hydrant maintenance for the year and, watching the frost go down. So, it's getting fairly deep, so we're
Yeah, they had to employ a ground thaw last week, right?
this week, correct.
To fix a sewer break lateral?
We had a sewer lateral that was bored through by contractor in the right of way, so we repaired that last week, and we had about 4.5 feet of frost, so. And then the roads were at roughly about 5 to 5.5 feet.
Okay. Joel, you want to do a update on the community area network?
Yeah, last Monday, I don't have anything written up on this, it's just an update. Last Monday, took to the Plan Commission an easement to assist us in having all the path we need to extend our conduit and fiber from essentially the Plover Municipal Building to Portage County Highway Facility. Right as you get near crossing the interstate on Roosevelt, there's some area that isn't dedicated right away, so we needed an easement there that was approved. So we're going forward with that. That's the only update I have on that project. Still slated to take place award here in the spring. And that is again, getting to County Highway Facility, getting to Kennedy School in Junction City, and a few other small extensions within the city, all paid for by their endpoint users. So school district and the county, a couple little city components to that, but that's all.
And do you have anything under director's report this month?
Yeah, just wanted to kind of reiterate again, as touched on in Eric's report, but that we have the folks that are doing the test well installation on site on Ridge Court. They just mobilized a few things today. I think what'd you say, the drill rig's come in this week? This afternoon, the drill rig will be on site, it sounds like. And that we are in the hiring process. So we got to dig through some resumes or some applications here and get some invites out for some interviews. And that's just starting up. Just wanted to let you guys know the musical chairs game will begin here, you know, with 2 hires potentially. That moves people around a little bit.
So who are we hiring?
Well, there's one broad title for a lot of the folks on the utility side, and that is utility operator, right? A lot of the people that work for us out and about in the field are utility operators. But the other one, so that's one of them that we're advertising, and the other one is equipment operator. We've had particularly hard time finding experienced equipment operators. So we'll see what kind of applications we get in. That will have some bearing on who and when we hire.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, that's all I've
All
got.
right, sounds
Joel,
good.
you were gonna address PFAS?
Oh, I was gonna address that with you. We can, if you'd like me to.
I would like that.
So I guess briefly, I think it's appropriate for the director's report just to kind of comment on some things in the news. There was the article on the Wausau PFAS levels being kind of reported in an area that lies between, so under the EPA level, the guidelines, and above what the DNR is going to propose for kind of a health concern level. And those two numbers are 20 parts per trillion and 70 parts per trillion. So Wausau did have samples that showed results between those two. There was some, the way they got there was basically voluntary, right? They did some voluntary testing after the DNR asked them to, because a municipality nearby that was designing for a well treatment facility was doing samples, and therefore they found it, so then Wausau found it. We are in the UCMR 5 list, so that is the unregulated contaminants testing that the EPA puts out every 3 years, right? Every 3 years?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, every 3 years, a new panel of constituents is picked by the EPA. So they've picked 20 or 30 different PFAS and PFOA compounds for us to test, starting in 23, completed sometime in 25 or by 25. And that will be a lot of communities in our area doing that. So it's coming up. But like I said beforehand, the long and short of it for us right now is that the last time we tested for this, we had no detect. But I do believe the last time we tested for this, we were using different testing methods, and the level of detection was much higher. So I think that's accurate.
Yeah, that was UCMR 3, 2013.
Yeah.
For testing parts per billion.
Yeah. So that's where we stand right now. As the numbers we have in hand are no detect, but we will be doing more sampling as part of the EPA required UCMR 5.
So there is no DNR requirement, just a suggested advisory level, maybe?
Yeah, right. They're going to propose 20 parts per million, but that's a ways out. And I'm sorry, per trillion, yeah. And then, which, I mean, it's almost inconceivable how you even test at that level to me, but it's out there. The testing methods are out there. But yeah, the voluntary testing by a lot of communities is just that, voluntary, and but a lot of communities are going to be doing it non-voluntary now too, because the UCMR isn't something you can opt out of. So there'll be a lot more information in the months ahead on that for all communities of our size. I think it's probably those that serve over 3,300 services. That seems to be the bucket that we fall in, is because that's about 10,000 people. So 10,000 to, and over will probably be doing about the same testing as we are.
So if these are unregulated contaminants, but there's still contaminants that might be of a health concern?
Yeah. So the UCMR, the Unregulated Contaminants Monitoring Rule, that's what that stands for, I believe. It is just that. They're saying we have the authority to require some testing on things that are not currently regulated. So basically what they're doing is getting a feel for what should be regulated.
Okay.
So this would be the type of thing where, say nitrate right now didn't have a didn't have a health standard, right, of 10 parts per million. And they thought maybe it should. They'd put that on UCMR, so everybody did testing, and they see where everybody's at, and they figure out, and there's a lot of things that go into it, economic impact and health impact and everything like that. And beginning to end, I think one time we kind of figured out it takes roughly 13 years to get through when they start thinking about it as a constituent to test for, through all the testing, through the analysis phase, and then of course comes the regulatory and legislative end of things, which is at least double all of that, right? So it'll be a while, but some of these things, when they're of particular interest, move faster than others. But we've been through it before, and I'm hopeful that we don't have anything, serious to deal with, but we'll know before too long. Yeah,
Thank you.
and I believe
All
that's
right.
it.
If there's nothing else, a motion to adjourn is in order.
I'll move to adjourn, Ray.
All those in favor signify by the sign of aye.
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 Aye. Both same sign. Motion carried.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.